Either one. Yep. What? Yeah. Gary, just go. Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for coming out. Welcome to the Sarah Stevenson Tuesday Morning Forum. My name is Gary Young. I am a facilitator along with the other facilitators, Ms. Laura McClady, Ms. Carlina Ivory Canty, Ms. Jackie Edwards Walton, Ms. Natalie McElrath, Winston Robinson, Mr. Steve Johnson, and Mr. Shay Abdul. Our forum runs from 8:30 to 10 a.m. At 9:45, we will pause for announcements from the audience. Announcements can also be sent to Steve. We always begin with a prayer. Right there. Thank you. You ain't used it. Yeah, no. Good morning. Good morning. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you once again, Lord, for bringing us to this tabernacle, Lord, to conduct the affairs of the community. We're thankful for those that made it here safely and those that may be on the way. Lord, we ask that you bless the matters that are here to be discussed this morning, Lord. We ask that you continue to bless our school superintendent, Dr. Keel, Lord, as she continues to navigate such a large school district and meet the different needs of a diverse student body. Lord, we ask that you just continue to be with the leadership of this Tuesday morning forum that works tirelessly each and every week to bring us productive forums that addresses the community needs, Lord. We ask that everything that's discussed this morning will be fruitful and will multiply and meet the needs of our community. These and other blessings we ask in your precious name we pray. Amen. Amen. So, thank you, sir. All right, do we have any first timers here this morning? Yeah. It's been years, but it hasn't been. Well, we'll let you reintroduce yourself, because it sounds like the first time this year. So.
Good morning. Since being a tabernacle, I say this is the day Lord made. Now we rejoice and be glad in it. So my name is Kelly Presley. I am the president of West Charlotte High School PTA, and I'm a mother of, well, we have 3 at West Charlotte now. I'm also a community member of Woodmere, and I am here to learn how we can all grow together with the special invitation I got. I'm glad I was able to make it. So I'm here. Glad to see y'all.
Right here, with the pink and white. Here, right here with pink and white. Right, yeah. Skip, that is, stand up, please, acknowledge your affiliation and introduce yourself.
Hello, this is not my first time, but that is my uncle, so I'm here. My name is Sadaya Sadler. I am a former West Charlotte student. I'm a current Livingstone College student. I am also on the freshman council serving as freshman vice president, president for Hospitality Club, as well as a member of our trio department. And I used to be West Charlotte's executive president. So I'm here as a community member, also as a returning member. I work for CMIC, so it's great to just be back involved in like education. And even though I don't live here anymore, I'm still a community member. It's still my home. That's so
That's so adorable. Think you don't live where you live because you went to college. In Salisbury, that a county away.
I'm just with the school superintendent to take the place.
All right, all right. All right, so first and foremost, official business. We need everyone to silence your phones. We do not appreciate the phones going off in the middle of a person having dialogue. Today, and I don't know if she needs much of an introduction, but our esteemed, we have the pleasure and the honor of having the superintendent, Dr. Crystal Hill, with us today. Um, this is a marvelous one because I appreciate and respect those fellow alumni of the greatest HBCU in the land, and that is North Carolina A&T Aggie Pride. So this one is very special, near and dear. Oh. Following the presentation, we will take questions from the audience. Again, please raise your hands and, we will call on you in the order in which we find your hand raised in the air. Questions should be no more than 30 seconds. So without further ado, Dr. Hill, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. I am so honored and blessed to be here in this special place. I had the opportunity to be here, I guess it was almost 3 years ago when I first started as interim superintendent, and just so grateful for the opportunity to be invited back. So thank you so much for having me here today. I have several things that I want to share with you, but I promise I will be brief because I'm sure there are a lot of questions and would love to engage the audience that is here in person as also as those that are listening online. I wanted to start with this because I think it's always important to go back to your why. So this is my why. This is a picture of me when I was a first grade teacher at Hunter Elementary School in Greensboro, North Carolina, shortly after I had graduated. And if you'll notice, the students that are in my classroom are so very diverse. And as I was looking at this picture last night, I was naming off all the names I can remember, most of them, and just started wondering, where are these students today? And what impact have I had and educators along their way had on their lives? I think back to this day, I never in a million years would have thought that this would be me. And so I am just so touched that we started this morning with prayer, because I believe that I was called to this role. I was asked multiple times to apply for various superintendencies previously, and I never had a desire to do so. In fact, when I came to CMS as the chief of staff, I was looking to exit public education because I had served in charge of academics during the pandemic, arguably the most terrible time in my career in terms of managing that. And so I was the face of that in my previous district and was trying to find an alternate path. So came here as the chief of staff, was really excited to work with the superintendent that hired me, Ernest Winston. I was really excited about the opportunity to help and serve him. Unfortunately, by the time I started, he was no longer here. And so I served as chief of staff for 6 months. 6 months later, I found myself serving as the interim superintendent. And then a couple of months into the job, I distinctly remember the day that I felt like the Lord said that this is something that I needed to do to serve. And so I share that with you today because I think one thing that I've had to remind myself in this journey is that the superintendent of Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools is what I do, but it is certainly not who I am. And I am careful every single day to make sure that who I am influences what I do in terms of being the superintendent, but what I do should not influence who I am. So I don't know if anybody's catching what I'm saying, but I am Crystal Hill, a community member, mom, wife of 23 years, daughter, friend, and a staunch educator and proponent of public education. I just want to share a little bit about where we are in our journey in terms of organizational excellence. So most of you probably know that when I was named superintendent, I was the 7th and 11th or 8th and 12th. I always get it mixed up in terms of superintendent serving. But we had been as a district in a state of destabilization. When you have 7 or 8 superintendents in such a short amount of time, of course, that creates turnover and instability. And of course, we were dealing with the impact of the pandemic. As we moved into the 23-24 school year, our focus was on stabilizing, making sure that we had processes, procedures in place. And then now, as you see, we're in a place of standardization and we're working towards innovation. When I first started, somebody came to me and said, we have all these great innovative things that we think CMS should be doing. And my response was, it's very difficult to innovate when you don't have a strong foundation. So I knew it was really important for us to build a strong foundation, and I believe that we have done that. Part of that strong foundation is strong leadership. So this is our Board of Education, and I am so blessed and honored to work for them. They have made a bold decision that they are going to lead our school district with a governance model that's called Student Outcomes Focused Governance. Now, I know we're spoiled in Charlotte, and we have a community that talks about positive outcomes for students. I want you to know that across this state and across this country, that's not necessarily the focus of school boards. I'll pause for a minute. We are spoiled in Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools because we have a school board that's focused on outcomes for students. Other places, that's not necessarily the case. So all of the success that we've had, I believe, starts at the top, and that's with stable leadership. I'd like to say congratulations to our two incumbents, our board chair, Stephanie Sneed, and also our vice chair, Dee Rankin, who were recently reelected, as well as our 4 incoming board members. They will be sworn in at our next board meeting on December 8th or 9th. Thank you. Just want to share with this before I get to some information. I start every meeting with this. You all have this in your handouts that I provided. This is what we call our placemat. In Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools, we are committed to excellence without exception. And so what you'll see is our mission, vision, and on the right side is our core beliefs. We have our goals. We have 4 very high goals. The first goal focused on early literacy. The second goal is focused on increasing student performance for students in reading grades 3-8. Our third goal is focused on high school math 1. And our fourth goal is focused on ensuring that all students graduate from high school enrolled, enlisted, or employed. Underneath that, the board has said to me that in pursuit of those goals, we cannot forsake these guardrails. So I have to make sure that I am focused on equity over equality, safety and security, attending to the whole child, and then of course ensuring that we have the very best staff in front of our students. So everything that I've talked about is from the Board of Education. Those are things that I am charged to do in terms of being your superintendent. The board is responsible for setting the what. I, along with staff, are responsible for setting the how. And we've decided we're doing this work through 4 pillars of excellence: academic excellence, people excellence, operational excellence, and engagement excellence. And I love to just share this slide as well. I am so blessed and honored to serve on the board of Leading on Opportunity. And this is just a snapshot from their website. And I love this vision. This is my drive. Every single morning, I see our beautiful city, our children, their future, our commitment. And so it is a reminder of why I do the work that I do and why it is so important that Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools does deliver on endless possibilities. So just a little bit of information I want to share. We have 185 schools. 2 years ago, we organized all of our schools. They used to be called learning communities, where they were pre-K through 12. They're now separated out by elementary, middle, high, and K-8. We are in the process of the second year of our district's 5-year strategic plan. And we are also really excited that for 3 years in a row, we've had a fully funded budget from our Mecklenburg County Board of County Commissioners, which I think really just speaks to their commitment to public education in our community. And then, of course, as you all know, a couple of years ago, we also passed a $2.5 billion bond. We are well on our way on schedule and under budget currently for our bond projects. So we have several projects that are underway. I think it's also important to remember, I spoke about this a little bit last week at our school board meeting and also just talking with a few community members here earlier, that Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools, our core business is academics, but we provide so much more to our community. So we do run the largest transportation system in the state of North Carolina. And you see that we transport students over 98,000 miles a day. We also serve meals to 115,000 meals served every single day. One thing that folks may not know that's different in Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools and other districts, every single student in Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools has access to free breakfast, regardless of their family income. So that is huge. So every single student has the opportunity to have free breakfast. And then, of course, we also offer free and reduced priced meals and of course full paid meals based on a student's socioeconomic status. Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools is also different in that we have our own police department. And so we just recently sworn in our new chief of police, Chief Jonathan Thomas. But we have over 200 members of the team that provide security and safety across all of our campuses. Another thing we're really proud of is that we are third in the nation with the number of teachers that have a national board certified certificate. And so this is a very rigorous process. So really, I'm proud that we're able to provide that for our teachers. Our teachers have achieved that, and they also get an additional stipend for having this certification. Speaking of destabilization, when I first started, there were lots of newspaper articles and TV articles about the number of vacancies that are in our schools. I'm really proud that on today, we have 98.7% of all of our teaching vacancies filled. And I will pause for you all to clap for that. One of the best indicators for student success is that having a high quality teacher in every single classroom. And it is something that will always be my priority as long as I'm superintendent, not just to have a teacher in the classroom, but a high performing teacher. And we know that if we're going to have high performing teachers, we have to pay them well, we have to train them well, and we have to support them. We also have a variety of career and technical education courses and clusters that we offer, over 70 different course pathways to ensure that students graduate enrolled, enlisted, or employed, and also lots of choice options for our students. All right, so just briefly as I round out my talking time here, I just want to share some history that we made during the 2024-25 school year, which of course was last school year. So Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools is ranked 10th out of 115 schools in the state for the percentage of schools meeting or exceeding academic growth. This is the highest in Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools history. In fact, we have 89.1% of our schools that either met or exceeded growth. Again, first time in Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools history. We outperformed the state in grade level proficiency for reading by plus 5.2%, math 4.6%, and math 3, 8.2%. I'm really excited about this statistic. 1, 2, 3, that's not 1, 2, 3, that's 123 schools that earned a school performance grade of an A, B, or C. I want to pause here because this is really important. This now means that 70% of our schools have a school performance grade of an A, B, or C. That is up from 54% 2 years ago. So a huge jump in academic achievement across our district. The other thing that was just recently released, and Dr. Balknight, our deputy superintendent, actually presented at the state school board meeting, is about our AP results. AP stands for Advanced Placement, and that is an opportunity for students to take a college course. Well, it's an AP course in high school that doubles as college credit. So they get credit for taking that course as a high school course and then also for college. So we had over 11,000 students that participated, which was a 2.7% increase. The thing that I'm really proud about this is we increased the number of students that were participating, the number of students that were taking more than one AP course, and then our results. So we not only had more students taking the courses, but we had 75% of our students that scored a 3 or higher, which is a 9% increase. So to put it in perspective, 16,000 students scored a 3, 4, or 5 on the exam. And what does that translate to? If a student scores a 3, 4, or 5, that means when they go to college, that credit automatically transfers. And when that credit automatically transfers, it means their parents save in tuition. And so what that equates to is over $49,000 of a value add in college credit and a $4.2 million in tuition savings. So I will again pause here because this means that we are making sure our students are going to college, and when they go, their families are also saving money. I don't know why you guys aren't excited. I'm excited. All right. You can't excite the room. I got to be excited for our kids. All right. So one thing that I want to close with here is early literacy. So as I started, I shared that one of the first goals that our board has is to ensure that we are not only meeting the goals, but that we are closing achievement gaps. So what I want to point out here, and I'm going to stand up because this is busy. This is the year 2022 all the way to 2025, and this is early literacy data. So this is for students in grades kindergarten, first, second, and third. And what you see here is the different lines represent different groups of students. So here you have Hispanic students, American Indian, or Black students, 2 or more races, white and Asian. And if you'll recall, I said one of the goals is to ensure that we have equity over equality. So what that means is for each of the goals, every single month, when I report out to the progress on our goals to our Board of Education, I also have to share information on how individual student groups are doing and if we are closing the opportunity gap. So what I do want to point out to you here is that our Black students were at 53.7, this red dot that's right here. And then you also see our highest performing group that year was our white students at 83%. So what I want you to notice is not only have all of these dots gone up, but if you will notice, the gap that was between here and here is narrowing, and it's narrowing quickly. So what I wanted to share with you that's illustrated here is that in the very early grades, we are seeing our opportunity gaps. While they are still wide and completely unacceptable, we are making great gains and progress in increasing achievement for all student groups and also narrowing those achievement gaps. And then I'll close with this because we have an initiative in Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools. It's called Capturing Kids' Hearts. We now have over 2/3 of all of our schools that are trained in this initiative. And the premise is simply this: you cannot capture a child's mind until you capture a child's heart. So making sure that we're putting students at the center of everything that we do. And with that, I'll stop and pause for questions.
All right, we'll start with our first question, Mr. Combs.
Hey, man. Can't do it too quick. I'm trying to figure out which one of these 6 questions I first. What are the percentages in terms of specific Title I schools out of all those nice, pretty numbers? When you look at those least, the most underperforming schools, how do those numbers shake out in regards to those schools?
I'm so glad that you asked me that question, and I am kicking myself that I did not include that in this presentation. So we have approximately 105, do not know the exact number of schools that are Title I. what I will say is that for every single student group, we exceeded growth. And what that means is for students that are economically disadvantaged, all the student groups that I mentioned up here, in every single content area, we exceeded growth. So that means that the state says, this is how this student group is going to perform. We beat the GPS. We did better than what we were predicted to do. So definitely closing achievement gaps, and the handout that you have in front of you, if you will look in that handout, we list all of the schools. And if there's a star next to the school's name, that means that they've exceeded growth multiple times a year. But if you scan those QR codes, it will give you the detailed data that drills all the way down to specific schools. Can I pause for a moment? A legend is among us. Keep standing, Miss Selma Byers-Bailey. Will everyone please give Miss Selma Byers-Bailey? Ms. Byers-Bailey is our longest serving, thank you. Our longest serving board member. Thank you so much for being here. So I was just saying, for those of you that don't have it, if you grab one of these and you take it with you and you scan the QR code, it will take you to all of the data and more that I've shared. So we go into great detail in terms of student groups, the types of schools, and then you also have the opportunity to see all the schools that exceeded growth, and then on the back, the schools that improved their school performance grade.
Ms. Jack?
Yes, I'll come back the second time around to ask a student performance question. I wanted to ask about, an employee gets arrested, and then is let go from the school system. What is the process for that person to come back after they've been cleared? Can you answer that question?
I think the answer is depends. It depends on what the charge was. It depends on if the charge creates danger for the school or staff. So I think the answer is it depends, but all of that runs through our human resources department.
Good morning again, Dr. Hill. Dr. Watson here. Good to see everyone. I'm very, very excited to be a new vendor with CMS here as well. Now, we know in our district that there's about 6,000 kids who are dealing with homelessness in our district right now. That's a group of kids that makes education really, really difficult to obtain because you don't have the stability. What are some of the initiatives that we're kind of rolling out to create partnerships to kind of help sustain and kind of work those kids to make sure they're getting some stability on their educational journey here in CMS?
Yeah, so we have over 400 different partners that we work very closely with. They're called strategic partners, and that does not include our faith-based partners as well. And so there are multiple partners that actually are experts in that space. We use them in terms of wraparound services. One specific partnership that I will speak to, which actually was spearheaded by our board chair, Ms. Sneed, is the connection with Livingstone College. And so last year, the president of Livingstone College reached out and said, we have a program for students who may be experiencing homelessness or may be in foster care. And they have a program that if they meet minimum criteria, whatever the criteria are to get into the university, they will provide free tuition as well as wraparound supports that those students would need in order to be successful in college. And so that's just one example of the fantastic partnerships that we have in this community. I absolutely love it. But then in addition to that, there are specific things that we as a school district are required to do for students that fall into that category. And the specific name of it is McKinney-Vento. So that's what, when students qualify for McKinney-Vento, there's certain services that we're required to provide for those students.
Good morning, Dr. Penn here. District goals are wonderful. data is wonderful. But at the end of the day, we're talking about parents also. So how can you tell me more about the family? And if and if you feel that you're supporting the family, and how are you measuring supporting the family? Because, as a longtime PTA, president, it wasn't there. And I know Ms. Ivy does a lot of things with the families and stuff. So, I need to hear a little bit more about family.
Yes, thank you for that question. So, I believe that a parent is their child's first and best advocate. And so as a school system, we cannot separate, the students that we serve from their families. One of the things that we have talked a lot about is I will ask our teams, like, who's our customer? Like, if we were a business, which we are, who is our customer? A lot of times people would first say, the students. Wrong. Parents are our customers because parents are the ones that raise their child. They're the ones that make the educational decisions for their child. So we have a department that Ms. Ivory is a part of. She works very closely in strategic partnerships and engagement, but we have a family and community engagement team. And they have a lot of metrics that are built into our existing strategic plan in terms of both tactics, the things that we're going after, and how we're measuring connecting with the families. And so one of the things that we learned early on is that we might have an idea of things that we need to do to push out to parents and families, but what we now know is it's really important to ask families what they need from us in order to meet the board's goals. So we have a system by way that we are doing that, asking parents what it is that they need and being very responsive to that. So one of the things that we now have available is we have several lunch and learns for parents to come to. We have teams that actually go out into the community, out to schools that meet and share information about specific topics, ask questions. Anything in terms of academic performance, we've been very intentional in how we share that information. So if you go now on our website, to our family engagement website, you will see this is when your child may be taking this particular assessment. This is what it means. If your child has this score, these are the resources that we have in place to support you. You don't know how to use these resources. Let us tell you at a time that we can meet with you to talk to you about how to access these resources. And so, of course, that's focused on academics because academics is our core business, but that team also focuses on other aspects to support the student, their parents, and their family, because we know that it is a family unit that's supported by the school system.
All right, Cedric.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. My name is Cedric. I first met you when you were interim superintendent. You came and spoke to our retirement group. One of your charges was for us to volunteer back in the system. I thought that was big of you not having a job and asking people to volunteer. But I need your help. I started a mentoring group at West Charlotte. They were the first ones to accept me. Go West Charlotte. And so in order to motivate the Black and brown children, I want to develop a leadership award and name it after the first African-American female for Charlotte Mecklenburg School. There's probably an official line I need to go through, but if you weren't the current superintendent, would that person be able to agree to be that award for those students? Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for volunteering. I do remember that request coming. I'm not sure how I feel about someone receiving an award with my name, especially with me being it's not about Crystal. Let's just say that. It's not about me.
Have a jersey and the Raptors, like it's still playing. Also, I have to tell you what, on the theme of basketball, I'm a big fan, and there's nothing more fun than seeing somebody play when you know they're on their way to a max contract. So, ball out. Dr. Hill, ball out. So my question is, as we both serve on council for leading on opportunity, we appreciate approaching systems with data. My question comes from the idea of blending the data with sentiments of lived experiences that we know have tremendous value, but might not show up on a stat sheet. As my niece is here again, former student body president of West Charlotte, and just the overall context of West Charlotte, regardless of what the data says, there has always been a space that could nurture and build Black children from a context of lived experience. Even seeing top-down systemic operations throughout. That's, you don't get many opportunities in America to see that. So that has intrinsic values that kids carry on in confidence. Again, from 87 to 93, West Charlotte produced the MacArthur Genius Award winner, an NFL head coach, and a presidential cabinet member during the peak of what crack era. That's not supposed to happen. So again, there's something there that we're not mining or extracting that could be valuable in the mass. Excuse me. So my question is, how do we do a better job at bridging the data and the lived experience of those intangibles?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think the beautiful thing about what you just shared about West Charlotte, I'll just have to call a point of corrections when you said the data may not show it, the data shows it. West Charlotte might drop on their academic data this past school year. And so I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because this year when I went around to different schools, it was specifically in the space of awarding the Principal of the Year award for our 11 performance areas. I remember a distinct moment at Wilson STEM Academy, Principal Patrice McCauley. She was named the Principal of the Year. And so, the way it's set up, it's a big surprise, and the room is filled with students. And when she came in, of course, it was, we're cheering her on. But when she began to speak to her students and re-share with them what they did, when you looked across this room, all Black and brown kids, when she began to speak of the power of what they did in terms of not just academic performance, but that was a really big deal, and everything that they had done, despite what anybody else on the outside looking in would make assumptions about the kids in that room, when she spoke to them about their performance and how they outperformed kids across the state, they went crazy. And so to your point, I thought in that moment, we have these beautiful glossy, all the schools that are listed, but how do we actually draw out those stories? And so I'm just really excited because recently we made a move in our communications division, and we have decided that we specifically have to have a team that works to pull out those stories. And I'm not going to embarrass him, but I will. Tom Miner's in the back of the room. He's recently named as our assistant communications officer. But when we interviewed him, that's one of the things that he talked about is the beautiful stories that exist across our community. How can we begin to draw those out and make it match all of the data that we have? So we're working on it.
Okay, I have a question online. How is the school system addressing the large number of truancy at some of the high schools? And before you answer that, I'd like to say, we thank you for allowing Carlinia Ivory Candy to spend all of the time that she does with us over the years that she has representing Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools. We appreciate that so much.
I allow it, but I'm in charge of that. I think Miss Ivory is doing what she does. She is absolutely amazing, and this is her work. I appreciate her so much. All right, what was your question? I'm sorry.
my question is, how are you addressing the high
Oh,
truancy
truancy.
at some of the high schools?
Yeah, so recently, the State Board of Education changed some policy, definitely well-intended. Previously, there was, policy that said that if a student was passing a course, well, like they had an A in the course, but they had more than 10 absences, they would automatically fail the course because they didn't have seat time. And I just heard everybody go, right? And so the state and educators began to really grapple with that, like seat time, like attendance is extremely important, so I don't want to downplay that. But if you have a student that is passing a course and doing very well, and they had 10 absences, you wouldn't want them to repeat, like you wouldn't want to destroy their educational career because of attendance. So when that policy switched, there were some unintended consequences, of course, right? So students doing well, they no longer have to have that seat time, and have an automatic, WF, which is a withdrawal fail. How do we incentivize and make sure that kids are coming to school? And so the stance that we have taken is we need to be more focused on, instead of dealing with truancy, how do we ensure that schools are a place that kids want to come and they want to be engaged, and when they miss out on being there, then they're like, oh man, I missed something. So in other words, just thinking differently about how we're engaging students. So on the legal side, obviously, there's requirements that we have to do when students miss school. Anytime a student misses 3, 6, 10 days unexcused absences, we're required to notify them. And we also, now, different from 2 years ago, have a social worker that's assigned to every single school. And we have the best social workers in the state of North Carolina. So we have a standard protocol that what we do when a student misses 1 day, what we do when a student misses 4 days, what we do when a student misses 8 days, when they miss more than 10. And so we have a standard protocol of how we address those students, really getting to the root cause of why students may or may not be attending school.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Wait a minute, I'm getting things.
While she gets it, you ready? Go ahead, Ms. Anderson.
Good morning, and so glad to have you here. And I just want to clarify one thing. During the presenters' presentation, we don't usually say anything.
Get on there.
This group is getting out of hand. So don't take the fact that we seemed as though we weren't enthusiastic about what you were saying. It's just that we don't usually say anything. The presenter says what they have to say, and then we ask questions, and that's it. But know that not everyone gets applause at the end of their presentation, and you did get that. And my question is about volunteering. I volunteered online. I cannot think of any reason I would have been rejected. I have no outstanding warrants. You know, I'm just a regular citizen, but I never heard back anything about it. And I know that that's what they told me I needed to do, is to apply online. Is that the best way to volunteer? I particularly want to work at Ransom, but that's the school nearest to me. And my brother taught there for 20-something years. Richard Miguel Grass, and he also served on the school board. So I thought it would be good to volunteer at his alma mater, so to speak. But how does one get accepted as a volunteer?
Well, thank you for sharing that feedback with me, and I want to apologize on behalf of Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools that you did not receive the crown experience. I wear this crown, and you see members of our team wearing this crown, and what we believe is every person that interacts with our school district should be treated as a queen or queen that they are, because we are in the Queen City. So I apologize that you did not receive that treatment. What you did was correct. You apply online. And before we leave today, I'll make sure that we have your information. Someone will reach out to you today to make sure that you're connected with Ms. Prickard at Francis Middle School. She would love to have your support there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Natalie, that mixtape you dropped got way too much cussing on. That's probably the reason you got it. Go ahead.
Good morning, Ms. Aaron. Thank you so much for your service. Wow. I myself, I've been a substitute teacher since 2008. And I've been a substitute teacher. I'm not anymore, but since 2008. Started with elementary, went all the way to high school. After the pandemic, there's I see a lot of mental illness. What's happening on that end with the children?
Yes, so, the pandemic exposed and exacerbated a lot of, challenges that existed in our communities. And of course, our schools are a microcosm of our greater community. And so we have seen an increase in terms of students that need mental health supports, behavior, absenteeism, things like that. We have seen a decrease in terms of behavior needs, things like that. But what we see students struggling with a lot now is anxiety, depression, those type of things. And so one of the things that has most recently happened across multiple layers, nationally, state, and then even here locally, is the use of cell phones and distractions during the instructional day. And so our schools, so this year became state law that during the instructional day, instructional time period, that phones had to be off and away. And so our principals, teachers are sharing that they are seeing students being much more engaged, they're making friends, they're being more social, things like that, simply because they don't have that distraction. Now, we of course know that that's not the answer. It's not, cell phone is not the thing, but that is an example of one of the things that have been put in place from a policy perspective. From a supports perspective, I mentioned now that every school has access to a school social worker. We also have our counselors that are trained, many of them in school-based mental health. We have lots of partners that we work very closely with as well that provide school-based mental health supports for students that need them. And then also referrals to outside services if things can't be supported in the school. So lots of different layers, but again, we rely heavily on our multiple partners that specialize in that space to provide that service to our students.
Thank you.
Good morning. Yes, so Dr. Hill, is it my turn yet?
Oh, sorry, I didn't know where you were.
Yeah, I could have stood. So yeah, I'm Kelly Presley, West Charlotte High School PTA, PTSA president. And it kind of roll back to what question she just asked. So my question also included the staff, because what I've had conversations with them and they have said that it's a very trying time for them as well, for the teaching space as well as personal as well. And part two is, yes, I have a child at Ranson and they definitely need the help. She would be glad to have you over there. But that is my question. You know, you just addressed for the kids, but what about for the parents as well? I mean, for the teachers.
Yes, thank you for asking that follow-up question, because it reminded me of something that I didn't answer with the previous one. So I'll take the privilege, if that's okay, answering both. One of our most significant partners that I wanted to mention is our partnership that we have with Atrium Health, and also funded through Bank of America. So two of our premier partners. We have a partnership called Meaningful Medicine. And Meaningful Medicine is now in over 60 schools right now. And what we're able to do with Meaningful Medicine is our students have access to school-based virtual, not only physical health, but also mental health supports as well. And that addresses the question that was asked earlier in terms of truancy and absences. Students were able to get the supports that they need in school without ever having to go out. And that service is to provide to students that are insured as well as students that are not insured or underinsured. So regardless of their insurance level, students that the Meaningful Medicine program is in those schools. And to your point earlier, that program is in the schools that need them the most. So that program is in place. In terms of our staff and our teachers, we also recognize that mental health and stress and the challenges of life just in general are pressing. As I mentioned earlier, the most important factor to ensure that students are successful is the quality of the teacher in the classroom. And we cannot ensure the quality of the teacher in the classroom if they have so many other things that are going on that they're unable to focus on the students that they're serving. So we've made a commitment in terms of our recruitment, retention, and talent development to be really strategic in the way that we're addressing the needs of our teachers and staff. And so the way we did that was simply to ask them. Instead of pretending that we know what they need, we are constantly asking them what they need. And so one of the things that they said to us is, we need some strategies in terms of resiliency. And so we most recently partnered with Novant Health to support specifically our beginning teachers, our new to the profession teachers, but it's available to any teacher in terms of strategies, things that they can do in terms of resilience and how to navigate all the different spaces. And then also to remove the stigma of counseling, mental health supports, all of those things that always have that stigma to them, making sure that we're moving that stigma and letting our teachers know and our staff know that services are available to them. Not only are they available to them, but we're making them readily available to them in the space.
Superintendent, my name is David Mildenberg. I'm really thankful for your leadership. And I'm really thankful for those 140,000 precious kids, regardless of race. My question is, we made national news last week for 20,000 plus absences per day. What did you learn, and what is this district's plan for dealing with the Hispanic students over the next 5 years as that population grows and the challenges you face with ESL?
So I learned last week just how deeply this community cares for the children and members of our community. I knew it was there, but I saw it in on full display last week, excuse me, as we saw members of our community come together. The other thing that I learned is people make a lot of assumptions about different groups of students. Their status in terms of whether or not they're documented or undocumented. So lots of misinformation that's out there that our team worked really hard to make sure that we addressed head on. When we started this, I said to the team, I think our marker of when we can calculate the real fallout of this will be next week. So the week after Thanksgiving, to see if and when students actually begin returning to school. I would say that my biggest learning was the amount of fear that people experienced regardless of what their status is. What do I mean by that? So, the numbers are reported that all of these students were absent. Well, there's the automatic assumption that all those students are absent because they happen to be undocumented. We don't keep a record of students that are documented or undocumented, but we do know that that is statistically impossible. Like, that number cannot represent all the students that are undocumented, right? And so, in terms of what we're trying to do, we started on day one, just as I mentioned earlier. Our normal practices, our social work teams reach out to students on day one when they're absent. Based on our standard protocol, we have processes to reach out, but we ramped that up last week. So when we noticed that students were not out, or we heard that students weren't out, the teams were actively reaching out to those families, asking them what they needed, and then those same teams are actively working to try to get them back in school. So one of the other things that we've done is we are working very closely to make sure that when students do return, that we've mobilized at the school level, the student services teams that are already in place, our social workers, our counselors, because those are the team members that have the expertise to support students that may have experienced trauma. And so those are the folks that we would be heavily relying on to provide that support. And then, of course, to our teachers and our principals, asking them to do what they do every single day, to show up for students, to care for them, to love on them, regardless of what they've experienced. From a curriculum standpoint, I'm really proud that our team has already in place for each unit of study the highest leverage things that students need to know in order to be successful. So based on each individual school's need, their instructional leadership team have identified what those key levers will be, and will jump right into the space of providing small group instruction, or in some cases, if we had some schools that the whole class was empty, the teacher would be then revisiting those high leverage things to make sure that students don't fall too terribly behind. But to answer your question, I think that we are unclear of what we may be facing. I think we'll have more of an idea beginning next week to know if students are actually returning back to school.
All right, so we're coming down to a 15-minute stretch, and we still have 10 questions here. So we're going to stick to the time limits, please. 30 seconds on a question and 1 minute on a response. Ms. Natalie?
Got it.
You got your jail. All right, the next question, go ahead, ma'am. You've been patiently waiting. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing with us the good news. I think we all need to hear it, and we need to share it. I'm worried, though, about the challenge of funding, because if you're gonna continue to close those gaps, that's gonna take real resources, grades 4 through 12. Tell us what you see in the way of funding challenges, or if they're disappearing or growing, and what we can do to help you.
Sure, so the question was about challenges ahead, specifically about funding, and are the challenges getting better or are they getting worse? They are 100% getting worse. We are funded through 3 major funding sources: state, local, and federal. So the vast majority of our budget, about 54% comes from state funding. And as of today, North Carolina is the only state in the entire country that has not yet passed a budget, which essentially that means that we are operating on last year's budget. And so, but I do want to be clear that although a budget has not been passed, millions of reoccurring funds have been approved to go for opportunity scholarships, for vouchers, for non-public schools. So I just want to be very clear that while the budget has not been passed, millions of appropriations have been made and distributed for students to attend non-public schools. Time, a little bit longer, sorry about that. So without a state budget in sight, the state is currently struggling with revenue. I won't go into all the details about that, but their revenue determines if we'll get funding. And then locally, of course, we're very grateful to our funding partners here at the local level. However, we can't expect local to compensate for what's not happening at the state, right? There has to be a breaking point. What I like to see at the local level is we can do the bare minimum, we can be good, or we can be great. And what our county commissioners have demonstrated to us is they choose to be great. And they've done that through funding a teacher supplement increase every single year, as well as the second year of fully funding our compensation for our classified staff. Federal is all over the place. We were hoping to have an idea of where we were in terms of federal funds, but because of the government shutdown, we don't quite know. We will have a board meeting on December 15th. Is that right? It's 15th. 15th, we have a special meeting on budget. And if anybody wants to tune in, we're gonna be digging deep about funding at that meeting.
Good morning. I am Johnson, Executive Director, Mental Health America. Thank you for the answers around staff, mental well-being, and student mental well-being. My question is specifically about suicide prevention, because unfortunately we are losing, especially our high school athletes, but our teens in general at alarming rates. So what is your plan to expand suicide prevention education amongst the high school students and the teachers and all faculty?
Yeah, so as a mother of a college D1 athlete that plays tennis, I have seen firsthand the stress and the pressure that goes along with the idea that you have to be perfect and that you have to perform, and what that does to an individual psyche when they don't perform. And that is not germane just to high school athletes, but I think it's germane to people that may be in positions. There's an expectation of perfection that is absolutely 100% unattainable. And so our teams don't have an answer for that. But what they are committed to is looking across the country to see places where they have seen measurable outcomes in addressing the issue in a decrease, and what are some systematic things that we can put in place. And so I already talked about, broadly speaking, about the school-based mental health and those type of things. A lot of times, specifically for the question that you asked, those students, you don't see the signs of the mental health until it's too late. And it's because of the pressures. It's a silent thing. Many times parents are saying, I had no idea, did not see it coming. But we're definitely looking for best practices across the country that we can implement.
Dr. Hill, thank you for being here. Piggybacking on the funding question, the Opportunity Scholarship Program, and correct me if I'm wrong, started for low-income families. The General Assembly has lifted the income level. Does that mean that more money goes to people to go to private schools than otherwise could go to public schools, and therefore hurts public education in North Carolina?
What that means is students that are sitting, and we have anecdotally information, and EdNC actually produced some reports if you want to look it up. There are students that have not stepped foot in a public school, who attend a private school, who are now accessing opportunity scholarship funds to pay for their private tuition. I was actually on, can't call the name of the radio show. He's gonna get really upset with me that I can't call the name of it right now. But while we were on break, someone actually called in and said, I'm horrified to know, but I just have to be honest. I took the scholarship because the email came out. I knew if I didn't take it, my neighbor would. Said, I have 3 children in private schools. I choose to send my child to private school, and I feel terrible that I'm taking taxpayer dollars to pay for my child's private education. One thing that I want to be clear about is every parent has it is their responsibility and right to choose where they want to send their child to school. So I'm not saying private, public, it's your parents' right. It's their choice. They know what's best. But my concern is that we take taxpayer dollars to pay for private education that does not have the same level of accountability that public schools do.
Good morning, Dr. Hill. My name is Darnell Ivory. I'm a retired educator, 32.5 years, and presently active in the Charlotte Schools Retired Teachers Association. Several of the candidates had formed for those running for school board, and they talked about the positive things with CMS, and one was they identified leadership, your leadership. So what I want to ask you is, how do you define your leadership style? And since being with CMS, how has it evolved? Because that was their keynote, was your leadership.
Well, again, blessed and honored to be in this role. I believe that leadership is not about one individual, but it's about a strong team. And so when I interviewed for the job, one thing that I told the board at that time was, one thing that I will guarantee you is that my superpower is building a strong team. I believe that people should have the best and brightest around them. And that's what I seek for in the people that have the opportunity to serve Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools. And so I would say that my leadership style is visionary, and I would also say that it's collaborative. I depend heavily on the team that's with me, the team out at the schools, but also as well as school board members. They're definitely a part of the team. In terms of evolved, I think that every single day is a new learning opportunity. One thing that I like to think about, I love working outside in the yard. I love how the seasons change. But one thing that I'm reminded of real quickly is that when the springtime comes and that bush or tree or whatever was blooming so beautifully the year before, if it's not getting leaves, then it then needs to get cut down. And so I'm a strong believer that every person is always growing. And if I am not growing, then I am no longer useful to the organization.
And I think the hand of God has been there with you.
100%.
Good morning. Culture means a lot, and the culture of CMS has changed under your leadership. Thank you. I want you to, I'm gonna do this in a minute. I know that Natalie said that she doesn't have an opportunity and probably needs more, but Natalie, anytime I call on you, you come over to the Elizabeth Randolph building, pick up stuff and do things for our children, especially our homeless children. So we want to thank you. When I call your name, just raise your hand. I want Dr. Hill to know who you are. Cedric works. I went to an art show that Cedric had at West Charlotte, and he did a phenomenal job like a couple of Saturdays ago. And we also have Darnell Ivory, who actually delivered meals to so many families the other day. You know, Jackie was there also. And then we have Ken, who attended our Faith Summit. And heard Dr. Medlocker was very impressed. And we have Mr. Lilly, whose wife gives about thousands of dollars worth of gift cards for incentives and things. And Blanche talked about PTA. She was very, very involved and engaged, continues to be involved and engaged, even though her kids are grown. And we appreciate that. And I want to quickly say that within a month, we had starting, well, a couple of months, in October, we had a summit, a partnership summit with over 400 individuals in attendance. We had a faith summit with ministers, and that was over 100 in attendance. You have Mr. Miner, who's new. We just did a food drive for families, and we, within a week, over 1,100 or something pounds of food. And we're still finding a way to give that food to individuals for the next 12 months, not just that, but others. There's been so many positive things that people in this room have been involved and engaged in, Ms. Laura Winston. So Robert is one of our new vendors. So thank you for being engaged. I wanted her to know how this Tuesday morning forum gives back. Thank you.
Hello, I had a question. So I worked for an after school program called Urban Promise. It's a nonprofit. I work with 6th through 8th grade students primarily. I was a captain and a literacy lead as well as a tutor. One of the biggest problems I saw within homework and especially literacy education is so many of our middle school students fell through the cracks with learning disabilities and them not being caught early on. Primarily, I worked on the west side of Charlotte, mainly with Ashley Park students, but we noticed this problem with sites all across Charlotte. But how do we work towards catching the students who might have been shamed or just like gave up with their learning disability and being able to reintegrate them and get them to grade level?
So we have, if you think about when you go to the doctor to get a checkup, We have a screener that we give 3 times a year to all students. It's a checkup to see how they are doing, and it's universal across the board. And so the purpose of that is just like you would go to the doctor. They see if there's anything that may be not progressing the way that it should. Then based on whatever that thing is, the team works to see if that need is addressed in the classroom or if the student needs additional help. If students aren't responding to the additional support that they're getting, that's when they may be identified as a student with a disability. One of the things, though, that we have to be really careful about is making sure that we're providing lots of interventions and giving students opportunities to respond to the instruction. Because historically, in education, we have had an overrepresentation of Black and Brown and educationally disadvantaged students labeled as having a learning disability or as an exceptional child. That may not be the case. They just may need additional support. So I'm glad that you called that out. It's a great observation. With that being said, though, at the same time, if a student does have a learning difference, we want to definitely make sure that students are identified and that we're serving students and we have a system in place to check if we're doing that. Thank you.
Okay, you answered these questions like you had advance notice. Philip O'Malley, the only trades school we have here in Charlotte, and we know that a great majority of our students will not go to college.
Yes.
Are there plans to build another trade school? And how effective is that school in teaching some of these kids hands-on types of trades that they can learn and get jobs in?
Yeah, POB is an amazing school. I would say it's a hidden gem, to your point earlier, probably not telling the story well enough of what's happening at POB. So to come, later this spring, we'll be sharing information and recommendations with our Board of Education in terms of how we are taking a look at all the programs that we're offering in terms of program choice, as well as our CTE, career technical education courses. We're doing all of that work because our board has goal 4, as I mentioned earlier, is to ensure that every single student graduates from Charlotte Mecklenburg schools either enrolled, enlisted, or employed. And we know that every student's not going to take the same pathway, but we want to make sure that we are aligning whatever that pathway is that they choose in a way that's meaningful once they graduate. So POB is a great example. We are taking a really hard look at internships and apprenticeships, making sure that students have access to take that are able to finish with a credential. So as soon as they graduate, they can go immediately to the workforce if that's their choice. But more to come in terms of alignment. And my goal is to make sure that anybody that comes to Charlotte can quickly know and understand the different pathways that we offer and how they get to where they want to be. So more to come in the spring.
Thank you so much. Good morning. For organizations that are offering free programming, for underserved youth, especially in the Title I schools, what is the appropriate process to offering those initiatives to the CMS schools and making sure that people take advantage of it?
Yes, so that would go through our strategic partnerships office. And so Ms. Carlinia just talked about volunteers and partnerships and all of that. We have partners that partner directly with schools because they want to work just with one individual school. We really like when people partner with the district because then we have a formalized MOU. And with that formalized MOU comes supports from our side of the house, but also alignment in terms of the partner that's bringing whatever their specialty is to the district. So if you just go on our website, look under partnerships, there's a quick, easy way for you to sign up, and then somebody will be in contact with you in terms of structuring an MOU. Are we done? Can I say one more thing before?
We have an online question. Was
Okay.
it in response to that
I
question?
just wanted to recognize Dr. Monty Witherspoon, school board member at large.
All right, go ahead.
All right, Dr. Hill, we have a question from an online viewer, Rob Hillman of Queen City Robotics Alliance. His question is, how is CMS incorporating robotics and AI as a career pathway?
Yeah, so Charlotte Mecklenburg Schools is taking a bold move in terms of AI. I talked a little bit about innovation when I started. Our approach has really been from the lens of focusing on cybersecurity and data privacy first before we jump out into new and exciting. There are multiple examples across this country where AI has led to dangerous places, so we're being very cautious. We're taking that approach because we asked the community and received over 10,000 responses of what you all wanted in terms of our approach. And you all said you wanted us to be both curious and cautious in terms of our use of AI. So we are well on our way in terms of looking at specific AI use cases. Robotics, of course, has been around for quite some time, and I'm very familiar with multiple schools. That Kennedy Middle School is one that comes to mind. Many of our schools have strong robotics programs. But as I mentioned earlier, we have STEAM-based schools. So our STEM schools, for example, we are ensuring that our STEM schools are not STEM schools just in name only, but really have an intense focus on all of the things, science, technology, engineering, and math, which of course includes AI and any type of robotics, and making sure that when we are delivering the gold standard for those STEM schools. So the schools aren't just STEM in name only, but they actually are aligned with whatever the gold standard is for what STEM should look like in our schools. Again, more to come this coming spring.
All right, we got an online question. In light of recent events at West Charlotte with a student passing and also the violent experience that one student suffered with a resource officer, what resources, particularly around counseling, are being provided to these students as there has been no one to come over there and speak with the students, where in contrast, at schools that are in neighborhoods that are more with a Caucasian demographic, those schools have received resources and actually have had counselors come in and speak to the students. So what resources are being provided for those students at West Charlotte and others that look like that, that school?
Yeah, thank you for that feedback. A little puzzled by that. If you all will recall, that incident happened on a Friday. On Monday, West Charlotte, I called that the school would be on remote learning for that day. The purpose of that was we had a reset. And so we had our student services team, which includes the team of counselors, social workers, school safety, my deputy superintendent, our chief of police, our chief operating officer. They were all at the school on Monday, did intensive training and support with the staff, put in new structures and expectations. Tuesday was election day, so there was no school, and then Wednesday was a reset. To this day, I have teams of counselors that are typically housed at the district office that are living at West Charlotte, and they're told that they need to be there, as well as behavior support specialists that are living there. And so anyone is not receiving what they believe is the level of support that they need. I just need to know that information, and before I leave today, when I get in the car, I'll be checking to make sure that not only are those services there, but people know about it. So sometimes I think what happens is things are in place, but the barrier might be they don't know about it. It's kind of like I used to say when I was a principal, teacher, you can stand up there and teach all day long, and I can walk in and say, you are killing it teaching. But if I look at the students and they're not being responsive, they're not picking up what you're laying down, then we need to do something different about your delivery method. And so my response to that would be, while those things are in place, clearly there's a disconnect that the people that need the services don't understand what's available to them. So today, when I get back in the car, I will make sure that every student at West Charlotte knows what's available to them. Thank you.
No question. The last one. All right. Was the last one was online? Yes. All right. So there was another online. It was, I'm hearing that there are small businesses that have supported our school district and had unprecedented impact, such as Sid Kimmel, but rather than increasing their contract size, CMS chose to decrease. Why is that?
Yeah, so when we look at supports in any area, one of the things that was brought up earlier was our shrinking budget. And so when we look at prioritizing support, every decision that I make is based on a data-based decision. And so last year, in terms of the level of support that we needed, is very different from the level of support that we may need this year. So when I started at the top of the presentation, I talked about we had moved from learning community superintendents to school performance areas. All of those individuals knew in their role. They won the job because they had the data, the school performance to prove that they could do the job, but they were brand new on the job. If you remember, we were very much in the process of trying to stabilize our environment. Now, where we are in 2.5, 3 years in, we have stabilized. People have boots on the ground. They understand the processes and procedures. We are getting repeated results. And so as you get better, one of the things that happens sometimes in education is we think that you just keep piling on new things and not ever revisiting what you're currently doing and saying, okay, this worked. Is there an opportunity to scale back? Any support that's ever put in place has to be scaled back at some point. If we're not scaling back, then we're just putting a Band-Aid on the situation and we're really not building the capacity of the people that are in the spaces to do the work that they need to do. So every single investment, every single contract, every single strategy is always reviewed on a regular cadence for continuous improvement. If things are working, great, we may continue, but we're digging in to see why things are working. Are they working well? Have we built the capacity? Can we pull back so people can stand on their own 2 feet?
Last but not least, our next question, Ms. Jackie. Go ahead.
Yes, be possible to know who those last 2 questions online was from, because generally we know who's asking the questions in the room.
No, one person asked to remain anonymous, and the other question, did you know where it's from? Oh, it's from, the other question was Ms. Lewis.
Oh, all right.
She was trying to get in, but the other person online asked to remain anonymous.
All right, we'll circle around.
Yeah. All right.
My question is, Arthur Griffin often asks about students who do poorly, but yet they graduate. So you could make a C and a D and you got a 1.5 GPA. What's really available for those students?
Well, I will say that I'm a person of integrity and I lead with integrity. And so there are very clear guidelines on what expectations students must meet to earn a high school diploma. And I have put systems and processes in place to make sure that when a student earns a diploma, they earn a diploma based on the North Carolina State Board of Education policy guidelines. And so that's thing one that I will say. Thing two that I will say is that it is absolutely 100% our responsibility to make sure that we're engaging students and that their success is showing up in every single possible metric as possible. One thing that we do know is that grading can be subjective, which is why in Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools, I'm very pleased that we have grading protocols and procedures that are in place to help standardize and take out that level of variability that may be there. But at the end of the day, grading should equal learning. And so we have to be really intentional that the grade a student receives is reflective of what that student earned, which is reflective of what they actually learned in the course. And so if a student meets the minimum expectation to graduate, we're not throwing a party about that. But for that individual student, it might be a party for them, right? Because they did what they needed to do to get across the line. And so we celebrate that student that walks across the line, just as we celebrate every other student. But what I will say is what the Board of Education has put in place in terms of our goal 4 is ensuring that every single student graduates enrolled, enlisted, and employed. And so we have 6 very specific indicators that we measure. If anybody's ever interested, I just reported on it on our last board meeting last Tuesday. They can go on the website and take a look at every single report. So anyone that wants to know in detail exactly what we're doing to meet each of those 4 goals, they can go on, they can read it, they can download the report, they can dissect it. One of the things that I'm really excited about in North Carolina is there's a new initiative that's being pushed by our new state superintendent, Mo Green. Give a hand clap for him, who's absolutely amazing. But it's called the North Carolina Collaborative. So students that graduate with, I think it's either 2.3 or 2.5 GPA, have direct admittance into a long list of prestigious schools right here in North Carolina. So we are really leveraging and helping students understand what is the value of your GPA. It actually means something. So if you want to graduate and you want to go to college, what you do in school matters. If you want to go to work, your grades matter because that might be whether or not you're getting accepted for an internship or apprenticeship. And then even if you want to go to the military, grades are important. So making sure that students understand everything that they need to know in order to demonstrate their ability to graduate.
All right, let's give a round of applause. Thank you for your time. Rather quickly, do we have any announcements today?
PTA president.
Yeah, go ahead. While that microphone's floating around, Dr. Hill, do you have a closing statement you would like to leave these good people with?
I just want to say again, thank you so much for the opportunity. It is absolutely an honor to serve. I love this community and we want to get better. We want to guarantee the Crown experience for every single member of our community. So please reach out to us. We are open to your feedback. If you go on our website at the very bottom, I think it still says, let's talk. Yes, let's talk. Click there. If you have questions, comments, concerns, we have staff that are responding to that in real time. So thank you so much for your commitment to Charlotte.
Okay, so my last statement is on December the 3rd, West Charlotte PTA is having a meeting on December the 3rd from 6 to 7:30, and I would hope y'all come. This is my first year in this position, but if anyone, I see a couple of faces in here, I stay foot to the ground, like feet to the ground for years. So I hope I have y'all support. I need y'all support. It is a team effort, and I'm always willing to learn. It is not a silo. I'm not trying to be in a silo, but I need y'all support. December the 3rd, 6 to 7:30 at the high school. Our first general body PTA meeting on. I hope you be there. And that's it. Thank you. And I do have some certificates that I wanted to share from one of my sponsors from Golden Corral. This is free youth meals.
Thank you.
Don't share that. I know. Ooh, man. So you got to go for What up?
They bring me up for you.
You're obligated to get the fondue fountain if you get
I'm making it rain over here. I have a whole lot more. And I love that.
I'd like to, first of all, recognize Aura Volca, whose dad and mom did Campus Connection.
Yep.
Absolutely. 30-some years in this community. I also like to announce, I beg your pardon? I know he was your roommate. Oil and water. Next week, we'll have Mayor Bilal. She'll be our speaker.
All right, any other announcements?
Good morning again. I'm asking everyone to please join us for our annual Christmas party, which will be here regular time on December 16th. We are also asking for people to, if you could, bring a cash donation to put into the jar to help us sustain our coffee service for 2026. We were doing really impactful work here at the forum, and we need your support. So please come. Be ready to do a sing-along, play some holiday games, and please continue to support the forum.
All right. No more announcements. All right, well,
Everyone, I hope you all have a wonderful, blessed day. Thank you for coming out. God bless you. Good day. Thank you. Appreciate you coming
Meant to be.
Yeah, that's why I met them together. They came here. That's why I'm like, yeah. Ain't no story, but that's why.